Well, Temilade Salami joins me now in the studio. I know you weren't able to actually be at those protests, Temilade, because you've been in meetings all day today. But what have you made of what you've been seeing?
I would say these are just the cause effects of what we're feeling back in the Global South. The issues are beyond what we see on the media. The issues are beyond what we see on the paper. And there is no image that can perfectly illustrate what we're going through in the Global South. I'm from Nigeria, and I know what happens when there is rain. I know what happens when there is global warming. Kids can't go to school. There is gas flaring. Our rivers have turned to oil because of oil exploration. And it can be very overwhelming. And it's not been the best of experience seeing some of these things go on and then the protests by the side, and these people not listening to us and not making promises for the next year, for the next month, but promises for 2050, 2030, as if we had that much time to take care of the mess that we already created.
A lot of people that I've been talking to today, they're happy to be here, but they don't feel involved in what's going on. They're able to observe, really. Do you feel like you're included in the discussions that are taking place? I know you've been at a few meetings.
To be honest, I've been at quite a number of meetings that has to do with what I do, climate education and climate justice. And for me personally, it's like two sides of a coin. I'm happy that I get to be at these meetings and also track some of these pledges so I can hold them accountable. We've been doing this for years. Young people have been doing this for years. But we want to just hope that beyond COP26, they are going to act on these promises that they're making. And the other side is, listening to some of these pledges, and you're hearing words like, hopefully, we are thinking. I mean, you did not spend all that months, all that years just
to come and hope
and hope at the conference. We want you to give us your one-year plan. We want you to give us your December plan. How do you plan to incorporate this into your systems, into your structures? We don't want to hear 2025. Death is never going to wait for 2025.
And what you're asking for, I mean, you're just asking to get climate education to where it needs to be. You're not talking necessarily, I know your bigger picture you are, but at the moment you're talking about changing the education that kids are getting about the environment, what's happening in the world, and even that is not forthcoming.
Right. You're very right. And I must say that it's quite disappointing because for climate education, there is already a structure. You have the schools already, you have the teachers. I know that so many people might think that it is complex, but it is as simple as training the teachers. It is as simple as declaring an emergency of climate education, infusing climate education into the curriculums, as easy as that, working with the Ministry of Education and Environment hand in hand. It's not even capital intensive as many people would think, like any other subject, right? And I was looking forward to hearing things like next year, we're already incorporating this, we have this in place, and this is what we're going to do after COP26. And I was at the session that is still on, and I was very disappointed, writing on my tab and saying, hopefully 2025. And this is not just for climate education. It's been like this for all the sessions. We promised to do this. We promised to do this. And I'm just wondering, after Paris Agreement, all you have to deliver to us are still promises. And for the 1.5 degrees that we've been clamoring for and talking about, they've been talking about the fact that we've made progress. But we, the Global South, we cannot see the progress. If you say you've made progress, let us see what you've done. We're still experiencing even more than what we used to experience. And it's just been bulk of promises over the past few hours, past few days, and sometimes you're not even motivated to follow these sessions. But we have to. I have to, because I need to give result back to my people at home, back to my organization where I work, and the young people, and let them know that right now, our future, this is where we are, and we need to hold these people accountable. Not because it's fancy in there, because it's overwhelming, and trying to follow up on all the sessions and seeing world leaders across the world make promises and not even talking about the next year and the next 3 years. They're talking about
What about
2050.
Nigerian leaders and the Nigerian delegation that's come to COP26? I mean, you're an oil-rich nation. A lot of these pledges are about moving away from fossil fuels. How far have they come?
I'm going to say that after listening to my president, he mentioned quite a number of things that we needed, but I just wanted to echo this, that if Nigeria would move from oil to clean energy, we need investment, we need the proper infrastructure, we need people to give the young people who are, creating the technology, who are innovative, we need them to give us money to do the things that we're doing. I have friends back at home, I have colleagues back at home who have come up with innovative ideas, but they cannot scale because there is no money on ground.
There's no capital there.
So I've been looking forward to, discussions with our leaders where they're going to tell the room that we need money. And it's almost like a very uncomfortable conversation. But the truth is, we need you to come clean up the mess you've made. And we also need you to pay us to move forward and scale so that we can develop, right? So
that $100 billion a year,
we're not.
It's slow, isn't it? How do you feel?
It is very slow. I was reading a report recently by the UN, and I must say that going through that report, I was disappointed because this pledge was made, I think, 12 years ago, if I'm right.
Yeah,
12 years ago.
2009 in Copenhagen.
Yeah, 12 years ago, and this is 2021. We have not, I don't want to use the word we because the Global South is not part of them. Yeah, they have not redeemed the pledge. And there is an issue with that because all the countries did not make mention of how much they are going to pay. Each of them did not talk about how much they're going to contribute. So it's just been like passing the blame basket to everybody. So who's going to do this? There's nobody you want to hold accountable. We have the developed countries, and all we know is that this is the global north, this is the developed countries, but we don't know how much this country is supposed to give to this country. And it's overwhelming, if you hear the big figure, people who don't work in this space are so excited, $100 billion, but the question is, where is the money? I've been single-handedly sponsoring some of my projects back at home for the past 3 years, and I must tell you that I've not had access to the so-called money they're talking about to help us mitigate climate change, to teach kids in school. We do fundraising every time.
Even if the money is pledged,
you're
not seeing any of it.
Yeah, there's no accountability for it, and there is no transparent process for it.
Give us an idea, Temilade, what the climate crisis feels like in Nigeria. What is it like to live with global warming in Nigeria?
In my country, it feels like going to school in a flooded area. It feels like coming back home and your books are soaked as a child. It feels like you're planting your crops and there are no yields. And because the farmers do not have understanding of the climate change, they just know that there is no rain, but they don't know the people who have caused these things. Their crops are not yielding. Food supplies, the price for food supplies have gone up. I know they talk about inflation, but we're not talking about the climate change aspect. If the farmers cannot give us crops, we cannot eat. And if they have limited crops, the prices are going to go up. So while there is the inflation side of it, there's also the side of the farmers not getting anything from their harvest. And the climate crisis also looks like, going to school and nobody's talking about the climate crisis. The climate crisis also feels like going around and you're looking like a mad person shouting about climate change because they've not incorporated it into the education system. So everybody's just looking like, why are you making noise? I've had to speak on some platforms, and these are platforms that youth organizations have given to me, the youth organizations that I belong to, led by youth, organized by youth, so you get to speak.
So it's just an echo chamber, really, because you all think the same thing.
Same cycle.
But the people that you want to hear what you have to say, you're not being invited to speak.
They invite representatives, but the representatives are not sufficient. When I say not sufficient, you're talking about the future generations, young people, and 90% of the speakers are old people. And then you just give like a tokenistic engagement to the young people, just, to mark the books, to talk, and then to share whatever documents that they have. And then you see the documents back in the bin when you're going back home.
Ticking a box
and thinking,
just ticking
boxes.